Hey, welcome back to the 50/50 Showcase, episode 45. This is my showcase for the fifth and final tank of my collection. His name is Puck. He has Bio Armor, Savage Melee, and Leviathan Mastery. This is, I think, probably another one of these rare combinations like the one I showed you with my tank Sao that probably a lot of people don't play in combination. I know there's a lot of people playing Bio, a lot of people playing Savage, but maybe the combination along with Leviathan's probably a little bit rare. I would hazard to guess, but so that was one reason I made it. The other reason is that it kind of just seems to go together thematically, just this sort of wild, savage beast. And so that was kind of my theme, the concept behind this. I hadn't played Savage Melee before this, beyond with Dominators in Savage Assault, which is, a different animal, no pun intended. So this is my first time really experimenting, playing Savage Melee, all the way with every single power in the set. Now this character itself, I don't have a lot of experience playing. You saw, if you watched my prepping for the showcase video, this was the character that when I, opened up his file there on the game on Homecoming server. He was level 50, had been, fully leveled up, but his incarnates weren't unlocked. I didn't have any of his slotting done yet. So he was not ready for prime time. I went ahead and finished, power leveling him as far as unlocking his incarnates. Got him up to tier 6. Sorry, got him up to vet level 6. All 6 powers unlocked. And then I gave him a transcendent merits so that he could get an extra 50 Empyreans that I had laying around. And that helped him to get his powers tier 3 except for his lore. So that's where he stands right now. So I'm gonna test him out today, not just showcase him, but kind of run through it myself. I have a lot of experience with bio armor, so I know it's a very sturdy set. It's a very durable, very tanky. I mean, you can take a pretty good beating with bio. It has a lot of healing, a lot of regeneration, a lot of absorb. It's not the best as far as resistance or defense. It's got some, but it really is sort of that definition of layering, of mitigation, and it really leans into the hit point side of things, having a bunch of hit points, having really high regeneration, being able to heal yourself, being able to get absorb shields, which is its own, unique style that none of the other sets prior to this has. And that's because bio armor probably was like the last, I think, armor set that was created for the game, for live, that is. So it was a unique set and a unique experience. But anyway, let's take a look at the build, and you can decide for yourself if it's any good or not. Savage Melee, by the way, that was, I think, on the books for the game, but it was not released as of live. So Homecoming team would have, I believe, finished this set and released it in the form you're going to see here on Mids. So if you take a look, you got Bio Armor. I took everything. Uh, there's really no power on here that you can just say, oh, that's trash, and skip it. There's lots of different things you can do here. Hardened Carapace, resistance to lethal smash, toxic. Plus, it's got some mez protection, disorient and sleep. Inexhaustible, there's an auto power, max hit points, regen, recovery, slow resistance, endurance drain resistance. You can't skip that. Environmental modification, you got another toggle shield. It's got some mez protection, hold, knockdown, immobilize, and it's got some defense. It's a bunch of different stuff. And you got adaptation, which it's a single pick power. You don't have to really slot it, but it unlocks 3 other powers for you, and those are, really the big thing that bio armor is known for. This adaptation, you can activate defensive, efficient, or offensive, and it's kind of what it sounds like. Defensive adaptation modifies several of your armor powers and gives you more defensive abilities, resistance, defense, hit points, etc. Offensive would be the opposite of that. It's going to give you more ability to debuff, damage resistance. I'm going to click on this one here so you can kind of see it. So it does stuff like, here we go. Offensive, right? Spontaneous mutate, yada yada yada. While it's active, your hardened carapace increases your damage. Environmental modification gives you a to hit buff. Evolving armor has improved damage resistance debuff. Debuff effects from DNA siphon, genetic contamination, parasitic aura are increased. So anyway, it's modifying 5 or 6 of your other powers. And same thing with not the degenerate. With efficient adaptation, this is going to boost your recovery, your regeneration, your endurance, make you just a more efficient fighter. So, depending on what you're doing and probably what level range you're playing at, I could see any one of these being a useful adaptation to activate. For instance, efficiency. I could see that one being really good in lower level game when you don't have all your slotting, so you're having problems with endurance and hit points and that kind of stuff. Or maybe you're fighting Malta, you're fighting the sappers, you're fighting against carnies that are draining you. So having some more endurance recovery, endurance modification, that would be useful. Maybe you're trying to full on tank, so switching over to defensive mode would be great. Maybe you're being more brutish, scrappery, and you want to get in there and pound on stuff. Offense would make sense. So adaptation unlocks a lot of different, a variation of playstyles. So this is really a key power to the whole set, even though it's a single, like you pick it, you don't slot it. It's just unlocks those other three things, and you can't modify those at all, but it modifies all your other stuff. You got Ablative Carapace. There's a self absorb regen power. Evolving Armor's a toggle, gives you resistance to everything. It has a minus resist debuff on foes. It has a taunt to it. DNA Siphon, that's a PB AoE damage aura, but it also has minus regen, has a taunt. It has self hit points, endurance for you. Genetic contamination's a toggle. That's a DOT, minus damage. Parasitic aura. There's a PBOE, absorb, regen, recovery. So you've got these clickable ablative carapace, which is going to give you temp, absorption. You got DNA siphon, which is like your hit points, your healing. Parasitic aura is absorb and regen and recovery. So these three clicks are very important. Genetic contamination, that's your damage aura and minus damage debuff. I suppose if that would be your one power, you could say, oh, I don't need it. But, you can slot it with procs and other stuff, so it's, not terrible. And the minus damage is something you could potentially leverage if you went, depending on what your melee set was, or if you went into Incarnates and got the interface that has the minus damage. That was one idea I had for this guy. If I, was doing him again, I probably wouldn't take Savage Melee. I would try to find something else that's some minus damage. Genetic Contamination minus damage. I think it was the defensive adaptation boosts the minus damage on here, and then I would grab the one interface that has minus damage. So I could see that sort of being a strategy, a bunch of minus damage plus a bunch of this regen and hit points that bio armor brings. That could be a viable, way of playing bio armor. I didn't do it on this guy, but it was just something I was thinking about as I was going. So bio armor has a lot of tricks, a lot of tools, and most of them revolve around regen, recovery, hit points, max hit points, temporary hit points, absorb they call it, etc., etc. Then Savage Melee, again, this is the one I don't have a ton of experience with outside of Dominators. The big thing is you're building up Blood Frenzy. So as you attack with these various powers, you can build up Blood Frenzy, and then you have a couple powers that consume the Blood Frenzy, and then that boosts their damage or boosts their secondary effects or something like that. I think there's two powers that you can use that will suck up your Blood Frenzy. What is it? Hemorrhage and Rending Fury, I think, are the two powers. So the other ones, I believe, all will build Blood Frenzy, and your buff power here, your self buff Bloodthirst, actually gives you +5 Blood Frenzy and triggers these two to be active. They're going to glow that golden yellow color ring around the powers when they're activated. So anyway, it's similar to some other melee sets where you activate powers, which then triggers secondary effects from other powers. So kind of the combo thing that you've seen me play with a few other of my brutes and tanks and things. Anyway, overall the set is going to do lethal damage. It's got some DOT that it's going to throw out there. So that was one thing I think you'll notice with this is that there's going to be just a lot of like ticks of damage flying from just bleeding out as you're shredding into people. Plus, I've got, the damage aura and bio armor. And then I've got with, my Leviathan mastery, a lot of those powers are DOT when I hit. Get that moved up here so you can see it. Mids, scoot mids up. What is it? Bile spray, I think, has DOT. Yeah, moderate DOT toxic. Arctic breath has DOT cold. School of Sharks has DOT negative. And then I also have the degenerative interface, which has a DOT for toxic as well. So you're going to see a lot of just ticks of damage, just bleeding off of the targets as I'm just shredding into them. So it's kind of fun or kind of cool because guys, I'm gonna probably try to run away and just be bleeding all over the place. Yeah, it's very vicious. I think it fits the theme here, the savage melee, right? So I think it's gonna feel definitely savage. But other than that, there's not a lot as far as unique, debuff or control in either bio armor or savage. I mean, this is sort of a straight up kind of basic tank brute whatever. You've got high survivability armor set, and then you've got just a bunch of punchy slashy things. There are a couple things unique, but nothing here is total debuff or a bunch of control. Maiming slash, lethal, DOT. It does have a slow, so minus speed. Maybe that's something you could look into trying to maximize if you want to make a slow. But I think it's the only power that does minus speed in the set. Savage Strike, more DOT, lethal. It does have a minus resistance, so that'll play nicely with your one armor here that has the minus resistance. Shred, this is some more lethal, some more DOT. It's got some minus defense. So far, right, we got minus speed, we got minus resistance, we got minus defense. Taunt is taunt. Vicious Slash has a knockdown, so that's another option here. So one thing I noticed with Savage Melee, it doesn't do any one thing really well. It does a bunch of different things. So that's maybe what makes it hard to put together some sort of cool theme like slow or minus defense or some debuffy theme or control type of theme. Bloodthirst, that is going to give you damage to hit, plus it gives you those Blood Frenzy stacks that then activates or allows you to activate Rending Fury's secondary effect. So let's take a look at Rending Fury. This is a PB AoE, more lethal damage, more DOT. It spends your Blood Frenzy. You're to slash at everybody around you, and it does the damage. This power consumes all your Blood Frenzy and will deal additional damage per stack of Blood Frenzy. So if you got 5 stacks of Blood Frenzy, when you're activating that power, its radius is greatly increased, but causes you to become exhausted. So that's the big thing, right? You get a bunch of Blood Frenzy built up, and then this power, Rending Fury, just hits everybody. I don't know what the hell the range is when it triggers. I don't know if it's 15 feet is before it boosts, or 15 feet is when you got Blood Frenzy. But anyway, it's gonna nail a bunch of guys in a huge, arc around you, huge sphere. But anyway, you become exhausted, and then you can't gain Blood Frenzy while you are exhausted. So that's the big thing there with Rending Fury. You're going to get more damage. You're going to get... Let me turn off Bloodthirst and see if it changes. Yeah, so if you look at Bloodthirst, the accuracy is going to go up, but damage, I think these numbers are just from the to hit and damage from Bloodthirst itself. It's not from the Frenzy. I don't know if there's a way to show what the Frenzy does. When it shows here, Gauntlet of Fist. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know what the exact damage boost is from Bloodthirst. I don't think it says anywhere in here either. No, those are just the raw numbers. So it does a 33% damage and 11 and a half. I got it up close to 12% to hit buff with just my slotting. But that's just from Bloodthirst. I don't know what the Blood Frenzy stack damage boost is, so that would just be a guess for me. All right, then you've got Hemorrhage, which is also going to get triggered by the Blood Frenzy. It's going to consume your Blood Frenzy. So here it's a single target, lethal damage, damage over time lethal, but it does consume Blood Frenzy, so the target will suffer lethal over time. It consumes your stacks of Blood Frenzy. The power's damage over time will scale with the number of stacks of Blood Frenzy. If you use it with 5, you become exhausted, but the duration of the hemorrhage damage over time effect is increased. Again, how long that is, I don't know. while exhausted, you can't gain any more. So I'm not sure if it says how long the duration is anywhere. If I take a look, it doesn't give that information that I can see here in mid. So exactly what Blood Frenzy stacks, how much they boost Hemorrhage, and how much they boost Rending Flurry is, your guess is as good as mine. So if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. Savage Leap, this is probably the signature power of Savage Melee. It's a short range teleport. So target somebody. The cool thing is it's not like you have to drop a reticle somewhere or a targeted patch and click it and then drag it somewhere and then click and then you teleport. No, you just pick a target, click Savage Leap, and boom, you just jump towards that guy. The range on this is 70 feet, which isn't too bad. This could be this could be a good example of if you can get like a range boost. What is it? Cardiac is one of the ones I usually take in a lot of my alphas. That has the range. A lot of people don't look at range as useful, but if you could get this thing up to 80 feet, 90 feet, I mean, that would be huge, right? You're just leaping all over the place. But this is your signature power, right? You're gonna, leap towards wherever you're clicking. You do a bunch of lethal damage, some more DOT. You build some blood frenzy, right? So this is kind of like a good opener. Maybe that's the good one for God, what is that avalanche? I think it is. Let me just see if that goes in here. Like I can see, yeah. So avalanche is an example. If you were to take avalanche, the superior, whatever, the regular version, get the chance for knockdown. That could make Savage Leap pretty cool, or even cooler, right? You just leap out and then bam, you explode. The guys get knocked down. You do a bunch of damage. I went ahead and put the tanker sets in that one. I've got the chance for resistance. So basically, I leap in and get a big resistance boost, hopefully from that thing proccing. So I've got the what is that one called? That's what Might of the Tanker. Yeah, I got the Might of the Tanker in here. So I've got that to give me the resistance boost because I was building this guy more as a tanky survivor, not as a damager. So I don't have a bunch of damage procs and pure just raw you know, red plus damage everywhere. I've got a lot of more survivability than I would have built in some of my other like brutes or whatever. But anyway, so I've got Savage Leap. So I've got everything in Bio, everything in Savage, and then I took Leviathan Mastery because I really like Leviathan Mastery with brutes and tanks. You get 3 really good cone attacks. School of Sharks, that's your immobilize, but it does damage, and I put in mine the chance for resistance debuff from Annihilation, and then I have Bile Spray and Arctic Breath. Arguably, I have these underslotted from where I would like them, but there were so many other powers I had to feed because that's the one problem with bio armor. There's so much stuff you wanna and have to take, and all of it pretty much has to be slotted with the exception of adaptation. So you're kind of screwed when you take bio armor. You get some sets right you can take, and you slot 4 or 5 of the things with 4 or 5 slots each, and it's fine. But with bio, you really gotta like put a bunch of investment in a lot of the powers. Anyway, and a couple of the powers I was sort of experimenting with some stuff to see what it would do because like I said, have experience with bio and I've used it in brutes and it's really good. This time around, I changed up my slotting a little bit, try to get some more survivability, mostly in the form of set bonuses, survival set bonuses. Because if you look, I mean, your overall numbers are not pretty. Like if you just looked at this as a tank or a brute, you'd be like, this guy's gonna get murdered, right? I mean, you've got crappy, positional defenses are non-existent. You've got decent defense, energy, negative, fire, cold, but those aren't exactly super popular, damage types. I mean, Smash Lethal's terrible. Psionic is nothing. And then you look at your resistances, and the only reason my Smash Lethal is as high as it is because I went ahead and grabbed Tough from the fighting pool. So otherwise, I'd probably be down around 60%. So I got 80. I'm not even capped in any of my damage resistance. My next best is Toxic, which is extremely rare damage type. So having a whole bunch of Toxic resistance doesn't help you much unless you're fighting Vazalok or the Hydra. Other than that, it's pretty useless. So, on paper, this guy should get his butt kicked. But where survivability comes into play with bio armor is not in the raw defense and resistances. It's in the other stuff, the regeneration, 550% regen. I mean, come on, that's huge. The ability to heal yourself with multiple, powers. You've got absorb all over the place. You got regeneration all over the place. Max hit points. I mean, you name it. It's in your build somewhere. If I guys can't really see the advanced totals, but my max hit points are almost 2,500. My regen is 550%. That's huge. And then my maximum endurance is 111. My recovery is 3-4 versus point 0.9, so I'm not gonna run out of endurance. I've got my health is coming back super fast, and I've got extra ways to heal and absorb and everything else. So the survivability comes from those things and just getting in the middle of people, and just starting to just wail on them with these powers. And then you got the minus damage that you have with your one aura as well. So you've got ways to survive that don't show in the traditional, numbers over here, right? If you were to look at this just on paper, you would just laugh like this guy's crazy. But no, Bio's really good at surviving using a different set of tools. Anyway, that's what I'm going to go for with this tank. And just going to try to deal a bunch of damage. I got cones that I can unleash as I'm going into a fight. I can Savage Leap, teleport in the middle, and just start slashing away. Build up my stacks, hit Rending Fury on somebody. All this DOT, all this damage is just going to be ticking away, and hopefully that just drops enemies quickly. Then, as far as incarnates go, I went with Vigor because that has the heals that I want. It's got some more endurance reduction because I do have a lot of toggles that I'm running, and a lot of just fast clicking power. So I want to make sure that I can afford all that. I probably don't need the endurance, but hey, it doesn't hurt. And then accuracy, of course. You can't have enough accuracy, in my opinion. So if your powers are 70, 80, 90% accurate, that's awesome. You're going to be hitting way more than obviously you would if you didn't have more accuracy. And this way I can kind of be a little bit lighter slotting on some of these attacks that you see. I've only got, like the 4 slotted melees and the 4 slotted cones over here. I can afford to be a little bit chintzy on that because I have endurance and I have accuracy coming from my vigor here. So I don't need to worry as much. I can maybe emphasize damage and recharge on these attacks. Then I got Mighty. You've seen me use Mighty plenty of times. That's going to be great with this set, right? I'm going to be able to dive in there with the teleport. I can Mighty stomp everybody up in the air. That's a huge damage mitigator. And then just go to town on them by the time they land. Degenerative, I wanted some more Toxic. I wanted some more DOT. I want the max hit point debuff so that this guy has a good chance to take down hard targets like AVs and giant monsters because he's got the survivability, I think. It's just a matter of, I don't have a lot of ways to debuff unless I change, my adaptation. I think offensive, I could change over to that and start doing some more debuff. But the degenerative is going to help against those really hard targets. And then barrier for obvious reasons because I don't have a lot of defense, I don't have a lot of resistance, so it just makes sense that if I'm going to go into a tough fight, and I know maybe they've got some, hit was a heal debuff type of stuff that a lot of people have these days. I can at least click barrier and boom, now I'm capped, resistance and super high defenses for, whatever it is, 40 seconds a minute, I forget. I've also got melee cores. That's going to give you some more mitigation. You go into melee, it boosts your regeneration, boosts your damage resistance to everything. You get status protection if you need some more. But that's going to help. You can see it's capping my smash lethal over there. It's adding like 15-20% to pretty much everything else. So that's a great power just to get into melee. My regen, look at my regen. It's going up from 550 to 821%. Right? So I'm regenning like a beast. So that's the trick, right? I can click barrier, get tons of defense or resistance, dive in there. I got melee running. I've got the vigor going. I'm degenerating people. I've got ways to heal, absorb, regeneration, recovery, max hit points, you name it. This character has tons of survivability as a tank. And I'm hoping that the Savage Melee gives me enough damage, which it seems like it will, just with all the DOTs that are flying. Plus, you got some decent ways to get some AoE. Plus, you got your Leviathan spews that you can do. I should be able to lay down some damage, help the team gather aggro, and then let your teammates unleash on whatever else is around you. And then if somebody is in trouble, I do like the Savage Leap teleport, because let's say somebody's in trouble, one of my teammates, 50 feet away, trying to taunt or whatever, you can do that. Or why don't you just leap over there and start beating on whatever the heck it is, and then run back towards the main pile, right? So you've got that option. It's another way to reach out and touch somebody and pull aggro off of a teammate who's in trouble. All right, that is the build. This is Puck. I'll see you in part 2 to take a look at some solo strategies, and then we'll do some teaming after that. And this will wrap up my tanks for this showcase. See you later.